How big is your vision of God? My experience as a priest and a teacher is that most of us don't have a very big image of God at all, and it gets us in all sorts of trouble. This weekend, we hear from the book of Exodus, and Moses, his encounter with God, who is incredibly huge, and the positive implications of this massive, all-perfect, all-powerful, ever-present, magnificent, transcendent God has on our lives. The other day, I had an opportunity to go to a local coffee shop. And there, to my surprise, I met with someone just by chance that I hadn't seen in many years. He began to tell me about what he's been up to and, maybe our common past and so forth. But we quickly went to talk about God. And he went on to tell me that his vision of God is incredibly huge. He sees them all. He sees God's presence everywhere, in nature, in people, in the words that he writes as an author, in the music that he listens to. And he went on and on and on. And I was watching his face, and it was just lighting up with excitement and sort of an invigorating spirit manifesting itself to me and to others around us. Well, that's the experience Moses has in the first reading. Of course, we know the story of Moses and the burning bush. Moses is adopted essentially into the court of the Pharaoh. And there he lives a very cultured, educated, and kind of pampered life. Well, what happens is one day he sees an Egyptian beating up on an Israeli slave. He gets upset, pushes the Egyptian around, and lo and behold, he murders him. His sentence by the Pharaoh, which rips the Pharaoh's heart in two, is that he must then wander in the desert. Well, we fast forward to the reading today. Moses has settled down. He's gotten married, and he is a shepherd. He's taking the sheep of his father-in-law, Jethro, out for their afternoon walk, grazing. Of course, one of the sheep gets lost, so he goes and tries to find it. He turns the corner, and what does he see but the burning bush, that theophany, that appearance of God in his life breaking open before him. Of course, if we saw a burning bush, we'd immediately think there's a fire and try to put it out or alarm someone who could. But this is a different burning kind of bush. The bush is burning, yes, but it is not consumed. Then he hears a voice. Moses, you are standing on holy ground. Take off your sandals. Of course, this is highly symbolic of the spiritual life. We walk in shoes, and it makes us confident. Moses has to take off his shoes, and it makes him vulnerable. He is the creature. This presence, this divine presence in the burning bush, is the creator. Well, the bush continues to speak. What does he say? Moses, you are to go and liberate the people that have been crying out as slaves under the awful Pharaoh in Egypt. And of course, Moses is saying, how can I do this? Who am I? I'm not qualified to do this. And then, of course, he agrees. But then he says, what is your name? What is the name of this God that I can tell the Pharaoh to free his people? And here is the quintessential statement of God. I believe one of the most important statements in all of the Bible, in the Old Testament, in the New Testament. It is the statement in which the sacred tradition of the church and its sacraments and its morality hang on. And here it is. God says, my name is I am who am. Now, we put our philosophical hats on for a moment because that is a name that is unlike any other name. It's a kind of very strange name to have. Can you imagine going to a party, where you wear name tags? You could see my name tag. Hi, my name is Father Dominic, right? You walk up to this being, right, this transcendent being. Could you imagine seeing the name tag? Hi, my name is I am who am. What a strange name. Again, we put on our philosophical hats and we discover that God is describing his innermost being. I am who am. I am, meaning my essence, who I am, is I am, meaning existence. I am who am. My essence is my existence. In other words, I am the creator. I am the all-powerful God. I am all-loving, all-powerful, ever-present. Any human perfection that we can think of, whether it's forgiveness, mercy, beauty, truth, goodness, love, is perfected or finds its perfection in the perfect one Godhead. God is the sum, if you might, of all of these perfections that we know in our lives in part and long for in its fullness. So Moses goes on and he, of course, frees the Israelites from Pharaoh, right? But for us who are trapped in our limitations and maybe our small-mindedness, and certainly at times our narrow view of God, need to open up and understand that God is much bigger than any vision that we might hold as a human person. And I think that's what gets us in trouble sometimes. Often as a priest and a teacher, I hear people talking about their vision of God, and it seems very small to me, very tiny. Not the transcendent, all-powerful, all-loving, ever-present, all-perfect God of the heavens and of the earth, the God whose essence is all of creation and then some. What is the problem of having such a narrow view? Well, certainly, when you look at God in such narrow terms and you identify him as just another thing or another person that is limited like we are, then it's really easy to write him off, not to pay attention to his teachings, to consider him as insignificant. Because if he is one thing among many things in this created world, then he's our adversary. We listen to his teachings, and if he's just one thing in the world, then we say, well, I don't like your teachings. Or if he's sharing with us his love, but that love is limited, then we're not that impressed with his love. Or if he's a powerful figure, but he's not any powerful than any of the other human persons in our life or world, then we can write him off as not very powerful indeed. We live in a competitive world where we fight over many limited things. That's why we have such unrest and even countless wars. There's, for instance, let's just say there's a limited amount of money in the world, and if I have it all, then you don't have anything. And then we are drawn into conflict. Or let's say in our own country, there's one president. I'm not it. Then I could be very jealous or envious of his or her role in governing the United States. I'm in conflict. The list goes on. And it can be with God. If we consider him just one of many different things, and I don't particularly like this one limited sort of finite God, then I can write him off. But on the same token, you've met some people that have this expansive view of God, this amazing, almost overwhelming understanding of the Creator, this understanding of this transcendent God who's not a finite thing. and therefore not our adversary. They seem to be able to understand that this God, really, if he is transcendent above all finite things, then he doesn't really need us, and that's the beauty. In not needing us, he still continues to be in relationship with us, and therefore he loves us unconditionally. As the gospel continues to remind us over and over and over, his love is not dependent on our love of him. And so we're not in competition with God. He's not our adversary. Actually, he's our greatest cheerleader. He's the one who enhances our life. Because he doesn't need us to exist or to be the beautiful, all-loving God that he is, he can be with us when we're good and when we're bad, when we're feeling healthy and when we're not feeling very well. In other words, his existence doesn't depend on our behavior. And being the transcendent God that he is, he so loves the world that he created and feels so sorry for those who are suffering that he sends his only begotten Son into the world as the liberator of all sin. This God who is so beyond this world, this God who is so transcendent, this God that can do all things, chooses to do the unbelievable thing, and that is to transcend his transcendence by becoming one of us in his Son, Jesus Christ, the one who forgives us and redeems us. And so this week, we learn a pretty powerful lesson from Moses. And of course, more importantly, his acceptance of God who his essence is pure existence. I am who am leads us not only to a bigger vision of who God is, but because of that, to recognize, or even to begin to recognize, how much he loves us, and how much he's on our side, and how much he wishes to forgive us. And so let nothing hold you back from expanding your mind and heart into knowing this incredible God who is so in love with us that he makes us and our vision much larger. God bless.